Welcome to the Big Ten in 10. I'm Vaughn Dalzell, joined alongside Robbie Hummel to talk some shop in the Big Ten Conference. And Robbie, a lot has happened in the past week, most notably Ohio State firing their head coach and turning around beating Purdue on Sunday. But Saturday is where we'll start because the Boilermakers were slated as the number one overall seed in the selection committee. So a whirlwind of a weekend for Purdue. What are your thoughts on the Boilermakers?
Well, I'm not surprised to see them get the number one overall seed because of who they've beaten. You look at their strength of schedule, you look at their resume, you look at their quad one victories, and it's really there's no team in the country who can match what Purdue has done in terms of a body of work. Now, I don't necessarily think that they're playing the best basketball of anybody in the country, and that showed itself on Sunday. But it's clear what the committee is valuing. And I think that's why we saw Wisconsin in there at the 16th spot. That they are one of 4 or 5 teams that has over 10 quad one or quad two wins. On top of that, they don't have any really bad losses. So that's where Wisconsin, even though they're not playing well right now, that's how they fall into that top 16, into the last spot there. But yes, no surprise to see Purdue as the top team in terms of what they've done across the entire year.
Yeah, I agree that they have the best resume in college basketball. But when you compare them up against a Houston or a UConn, given all the talent that Purdue has and the time to grow together from last year to this year, you'd expect more from the Boilermakers. But sometimes it is just that hard to win on the road in conference play. UConn hasn't had that much problems. Houston has had theirs, and Purdue, obviously, all 3 losses coming in conference play, Robbie. So is it that, or our teams figured out how to beat Purdue?
No, I mean, I think that the road is hard, and it's kind of funny that we're asking what's wrong with Purdue, and they've won like 8 of 9 games. So it's
Yeah,
it's one of those
too good.
situations. But I think that comes into play because over the last week or 2 weeks, I don't necessarily feel like they've played great basketball. They maybe haven't played at the level that we have seen throughout the year. With that being said, this is a long season. This is one of those deals where you started practicing back in September, October, and we are into the dog days of February. And if you look at UConn last year, I think they lost 5 of 7 or even they lost a bunch of games in a row where they had some issues too. And right now, I'd say that there's no question UConn is playing the best basketball of anyone in the country. But I'm not ready to say that I'm, hitting the panic button for Purdue. I didn't think they played necessarily well, and they still had a chance to win. And with Ohio State, the emotion of your coach getting fired, there seems to always be a positive bump. And it's not like Ohio State's not talented. They are talented. That's a team that I think if you look at them in December, they don't have wins over Alabama and Purdue. People thought they were going to be an NCAA tournament team. It hasn't clicked for whatever reason. Give credit to Jake Diebler and the Ohio State coaching staff for getting those guys together and really rallying the troops, because that's what they did. I'm really more curious to see what is now Purdue's response. You got Rutgers at home, you're away at Michigan. Those are 2 very winnable games. I want to see how they come out and respond to a little bit of adversity here.
Yeah, certainly don't want to lose back-to-back games. That's something Purdue doesn't do very often here. But I will speak quickly on Jake Diebler because I was very impressed. While Ohio State is a very young team, they do have talent all across the board. And be able to be tied up with 30 seconds left in Jamison Battle, be able to lift them to victory there, it was certainly impressive. So Ohio State's lost 16 straight road games with Chris Holtman. They have 3 left at Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers. Not a tournament team, Robbie, you'd say, but the next step would probably be winning some road games and win a game maybe in the Big Ten tournament to keep his
I
job.
will say though, Vaughn, you look, they're 15-11 right now. They're 5-10 in league play. They've got 5 games left. All 5 are pretty. Now Michigan State on the road is going to be tough, but the other 5 you're looking at, it's not like they're playing murderous road. They've got 2 really good wins. Like, let's say that they win 5 straight, which would make them 20-11 and also
Mm-hmm.
10-10 in league play. Is it crazy to say that they can make I mean, now look, winning 5 straight is going to be hard. It's not like that's just snap
Yeah,
your fingers and it happens. But I don't necessarily think that they're like out of it because their net ranking isn't bad. And you have some opportunities here for more quad one wins. The Purdue win is huge. Alabama has aged in a really, really positive way. If that were to happen, I think it'd be a very interesting discussion. Again, it will be hard to do that. I don't think this
Yeah.
team is like dead in the water the way that maybe everyone thinks. So when you think of a coach getting fired, we'll see. I think it's an intriguing storyline, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Jake Diebler can kind of build here over the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, they are going to be the most interesting team probably with 2 weeks remaining. And I mean, road games at Minnesota and Michigan State this week definitely set them up for potentially making a run at the NCAA tournament. So I'll be excited to see how they respond at Minnesota, a team that's been very, very good. But we saw two more Big Ten teams get the number 4 seeds in the selection committee: Wisconsin, Illinois. We spoke briefly on Wisconsin, who is 1-5 in their last 6 games, but you spoke on that resume, getting them the 4 seed. Now for Illinois, Robbie, they are 6-2 with Terrence Shannon back,
Yeah.
27 more points in those last 3 games. Are you buying that Illinois deserves that 4 and they could be the last team standing in March from the Big Ten?
Yeah, no, I think they totally could. I thought they were a Final Four like team before Shannon's suspension, and now you can kind of see the pieces coming back together. Are there some concerns? Yes, I think defensively they need to keep making strides there. They haven't been as good, I would say, over the last 3 or 4 weeks guarding. More so like scouting report stuff, just making some errors that really hurt you. End of game situations, they have not been great, and that was why I think the Maryland game is a bit encouraging, even though there was some maybe scary moments in that one. They found a way to win in a building where Illinois has not won since 2011, which is when I was playing. So it's been a minute for the Illini there. But Terrence Shannon gives them something that just I don't know if anyone else in the country has, in the sense that he is instant offense in the open floor. You get him in transition, you get him in fast break situations, he's either getting a bucket or he's getting to the line. And they've got talent across the board offensively. But then you bring that back into the picture. Damask is still playing really well. Coleman Hawkins has had a great season on both sides of the basketball. I really like their team. They're not traditional. They don't play with a traditional point guard. They play the bully ball at times. But Shannon lifts them to a point where you're like, man, they can get to the second weekend and maybe even get to the Final Four.
Yes, and I was just going to say, with Terrence Shannon being able to score 30-plus points, that gives them something they haven't had lately and something that will take you deep in March. So that's the one team in the Big Ten I think I'd be willing to buy a Final Four ticket on right now. But Tuesday night's going to be a big night too, Robbie, on Peacock. The Iowa Hawkeyes are going to East Lansing, taking on Michigan State. And the Wisconsin Badgers, briefly noted, host the Maryland Terrapins. This is a must-win for both teams, but is it a bigger game for Wisconsin or Michigan State?
I think Michigan State needs to have this game, but I think Wisconsin has to win this. You lose at home to Maryland, and this Maryland team is a team that competes. You have to be aware of Jameer Young. You have to be aware of Julian Reese. They don't shoot the basketball well from the perimeter, which is a killer for them, but they guard you. They really do guard, and it's not like Reese and Young aren't capable. So we know Wisconsin's defensive troubles have been well documented. Michigan State needs this game as well. I mean, they just, certainly with the way that their resume kind of shakes out, they don't have much margin for error, especially in home games. Not that Iowa's a bad loss. I just think that the Badgers have to have this game at home against Maryland.
Yeah, Wisconsin projected favorites in their next 4 games: Maryland, Indiana, Illinois, and Rutgers. 3 of those 4 at home. So the time to fix everything is now for Wisconsin before they get that final road game at Purdue. And Purdue plays Illinois also in their final 2 games. So big stretch for the Purdue Boilermakers down the road, Robbie. It'll be interesting to see how the Big Ten shapes out, but we still have a few weeks to go before March starts. So everyone enjoy the season, the end of the regular season. For Vaughn, Dalzell, and Robbie Hummel, this is the Big Ten in 10. See you next time.